We read one chapter at a time, or we read one section at a time. When I did that, I saw the whole Bible as one thing. It was in my mind, I could carry it around as this, and just the anger of God in that Old Testament was way more pronounced than I had read when I reading these individual. He was just angry, just that didn't. I didn't. Am I right? The crazy,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's the part. I did a series a couple of years ago. I called it the shadow side of God. That's the part of God that, as Christians, we keep in the closet and we don't bring out.
Right. Well,
but very pronounced. It's very pronounced in the Old Testament.
But he was most angry. There's all those. He was. If you would go through the whole Old Testament, the greatest sin was idolatry to other gods. It wasn't. It was. He kind of, the things would happen. He would get mad. But boy, oh boy, if you were praising other idols, then that's when smackdown would happen, and that would be the first thing he would mention over anything else.
Right.
Is there a reasoning behind that, or what would you?
Yeah, I think that's when it's important to keep in mind. So for me, the Bible has two faces, at least. So it has this metaphysical face that we're talking about that awakens us, that quickens us, that expands us. But it also has a historical. It has a history. It has an evolution, and so I think you have to put those things in their historical context. So while people want to say that Abraham introduced monotheism, that's not accurate according to the Bible, because what he introduced was the God of Israel. And so every tribe or nationality had their God or their gods. The difference was Israel only had one God. So monotheism in its origins wasn't, there's only one God total. It was, we have one God that we follow. You have many gods that you follow. We have one God, and our God is all powerful. And so you see these conflicts and things going on. So really, God's prescriptions for Israel against idolatry were for Israel. And people aren't going to like that I'm going to say this, but it was as much about nationalism and race as it was about worshiping what we would call the one God.
At the time.
Yeah, because it was frequently mentioned with intermarrying and intermingling. When you go into the land, don't intermingle with the people that are there, because you'll go off and worship their gods.
Just one question that came unrelated, because
Sure.
I got an expert with me. So I think it's Elisha, Elisha, the prophet Elisha.
Okay.
So the story where Elisha somebody makes fun of his baldness.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh no, how dare you!" Right? And he kills a group of kids with a couple bears in the Bible. And I'm going, what? And God's cool with it. You're just going to kill a bunch of kids because they made fun of your baldness. Have you ever heard an interpretation, or do you know what I'm referring to?
I know exactly what you're referring to, and it's it's another one of those weird things. I told Aaron Abke in our last podcast thing that we did. I said we're going to have to do an episode on all the weird stuff in the Bible.
On the weird stuff, right? That was one
that's definitely up there. Yeah, I don't have any esoteric revelation on that.
All right, so the one I had messaged you about that I wanted to talk about was the book of Revelation.
Yep.